Yes, we're back with Jackie Mason. That's me, and I'm giving you the inside scoop of the inside part of every story. Every place else you hear the story, but you don't know what's really happening. We get the inside information that you won't get anyplace else. This is worth a fortune, but we're not asking for money. I don't know why. But here we got the gossip editor for the National Enquirer, Mike Walker. Did you ever hear of Mike Walker? If you never heard of him, you're not the only one. He's not that popular. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to lie to you, but he's a big man. To his sister, to his mother. And even they're not got crazy about him, but he's in the family. They can't get rid of him. Let me tell you the true story. This guy is a brilliant, fantastic man. He doesn't mind my kidding him because he knows that if not for me, he would have been nothing today. This man is the top gossip editor in the world. He is the top gossip editor of the National Enquirer, which they used to say 20 years ago, makes up stories. Meanwhile, right now, the New York Times is getting the information from the National Enquirer on certain major stories that they broke a number of times, and they have been breaking more news stories and more original, more creative, and this guy is the best detective and finds out exactly the behavior that you don't hear about of the stars of America. He's going to tell you what's happening with Tom Cruise, with John Travolta, with all the front they put up and the fake they put up, and here's what's really happening. Hello, Mike Walker.
How are you, Jackie?
How do you do? How do you do?
I do very well. I'm interested. You're so interested in Tom Cruise because you're right. I mean, this is a huge story. I did a little piece on Tom a few weeks ago, and I never got a reaction in all my years from people when I was talking about his attack on Brooke Shields and his put down of psychiatry and all of that. And the whole explosion of this, Jackie, that you're on top of, this Scientology thing and Tom Cruise, started back in February, and I did an item in my column that wasn't caught up to until late June. And I said, congratulations to all the other rags around the country, the New York Daily News and others, for catching up on my exclusive of 3 months ago. And I told readers how Tom Cruise, who's always kept Scientology a little bit in the background, had persuaded studio executives, Warner Brothers, to let him erect tents on the War of the Worlds set, where cast and crew got free massages, but in return for listening to the masseuses coo seductive Scientology propaganda in their ears and sell them books by L. Ron Hubbard. And that's the first signal that we had in show business that what is Tom doing? He doesn't, proselytize usually so overtly. All of a sudden, of course, then the explosion, the whole thing with Katie Holmes. I revealed how he first met Katie. He composed a list of 4 women, actresses that he wanted to meet. He picked one of them. And the next thing you know, she was at the Scientology Center, and of course the rest you know. He's hopping on couches, and he has really antagonized an awful lot of people with the way he's pushing Scientology, which, as you know, is a religion that tells us that 75 million years ago, aliens came to Earth, they died, their spirits infest our souls, and the souls must become clear. That's the goal of Scientology, to make yourself clear. So there you are, Tom Cruise all over the news.
Let me ask you a question with Scientology. Is it, in your opinion, a totally fake religion that's there just to mind control people and steal their money and take advantage of them? And what is Scientology really doing?
Well, to be really fair, and yeah. I'm a journalist, and I don't care what the story is, I just want it. And to be fair, Jackie, yeah. There are a lot of religions that have kooky aspects, and a lot of religions that practice mind control, and a lot of religions that try to get your money. But in the case of the Scientologists, I guess one of the things that really made Scientology come to the forefront as far as the National Enquirer is concerned was the case of this woman named Lisa McPherson. I don't know if you've ever heard of the case, but many years ago down in Clearwater, Florida, this young woman who was working with the Scientologist publishing company got into an accident, a car accident. And she wasn't hurt too badly. She got out of the car, took off her clothes, started walking down the street, and when paramedics caught up to her, she said, "I need help. I need to talk to somebody." They took her to a hospital. Scientologists showed up, took her out of the hospital. It was actually a psychiatric treatment center, and Scientologists, as Tom has told us, do not believe in psychiatry, all right? So they take her out of the psychiatric unit. They take her back to the Scientology headquarters in Clearwater, Florida. They keep her for 17 days. The record shows, according to the medical examiner, she was given chloral hydrate, injections of magnesium. I mean, remember, this is Tom Cruise telling us that, of course, they don't do things like that. And the next thing you know, this girl shows up at a hospital, and she's dead. There was a big, there was an attempted prosecution, which fell apart. Then there was a great big civil lawsuit, which the Scientologists settled after a 7-year battle. Now, here's what's interesting, Jackie. In the last 2 years of this young woman's life, and she was by no means a rich woman, she had paid $97,000 for Scientology courses. So what does that tell you?
Wow, wow. This is unbelievable. So in other words, Scientology denies the whole idea of anything, of medicine, of psychiatry, of anything that could be done for people who are sick or need help. They deny the whole idea of medical treatment of any kind, and you're supposed to get better through the air. Through what?
Remember, in this suit, I mean, one of the charges against them was practicing medicine without a license. So, here they're practicing medicine. And Tom Cruise tells us that, conventional medicine, using drugs or psychiatry to help somebody with a problem, let's say like Brooke Shields, postpartum depression, she's supposed to take vitamins and do exercise. Tom, on the interview with Matt Lauer, and I'm sure you saw it, we all did, what was singular about it was not that he was arguing with Matt Lauer, that's fine, but that he kept saying to Matt, Matt, you don't understand the history of psychiatry. I do. And then he wouldn't explain how he knew the history of psychiatry or what he knew about the history of psychiatry. He said to Matt, you're being glib. Well, pardon me, Tom, in fact, I guess we can't accuse Tom of being glib because actually he sounded like a college sophomore trying to sound like an adult. He made a very poor appearance. I've had tons of letters from people, women in particular, who used to love this guy, saying, that's it, I will never watch his movie again. And
what gives him the right?
Jackie, but could open better.
What gives him the right in the first place to talk like he's a psychiatrist and knows what's wrong with psychiatry? This is not his business. He's never studied it. He knows nothing about it. And he was belligerent and arrogant and obnoxious to this guy. Why would anybody listen to him and start discussing his opinions of these things when he's obviously a simpleton who's uneducated and unintelligent, uninformed? He's a complete moron. Just because he became a star because of a mistake that nobody knows the difference between a shallow, stupid person and a real star. Besides which, this is not your business. What if a chef told him how to perform in a picture or how to direct a picture? Would he accept the idea? Well, if I'm a cook and I tell you how to fly a plane, would anybody listen to me? This is not his business. Where does he come to be a judge of something he knows nothing about?
The arrogance of the guy. It's one thing to believe in your religion and to try to maybe talk people into believing it too, but you don't do it by just shouting them down and saying they're stupid and they don't understand anything.
But what is his attraction to Scientology in the first place? Why is anybody attracted to it?
Tom
if all they do
is...
Yes, go ahead.
A few years ago, the National Enquirer, once again, the only paper who did it, did an investigation into his claim that Scientology had cured his dyslexia. Now, Tom was affected by dyslexia, and that's something that affects about 40 million Americans. It's no small thing. It's where you have trouble, translating something you read into writing and vice versa, and it's a real educational difficulty. So Tom suddenly announces a few years ago that he's been cured of dyslexia by the treatment methods of Scientology. Well, we talked to the biggest experts in the world, the head of the Association for Dyslexia, the International Association, and the American Association. The heads of both those organizations said, first of all, there's no cure because it's a condition. It's not a disease, so there's no such thing as a cure. Number one, it's a condition. You just do things to control it. And number two, we are very familiar with what Scientology calls its way to, quote-unquote, cure dyslexia, and we think it's ridiculous.
Okay, we have to go to a break now. We got more information to come from you about his whole romance with this lady. I want to hear everybody hear about it. We'll be back in a minute.
We'll have